Training camp is over, the preseason is over, and the Patriots have set their initial 53-man roster. What's up, everybody? It's Mike Dussault, Tamara Brown, Evan Lazar. We're here to break it all down for you as we kind of put a cap on the summer, guys. It was a great summer. We watched 20 practices out here. We learned a lot, and then yesterday we finally got the Patriots' initial 53-man roster. So let's start with that. Evan, I'll start with you. What's your just biggest initial takeaways from that 53-man roster?
Well, I feel like it's exciting that 7 receivers were able to make the roster. I know that there's some question marks at that position for people maybe at the top of the depth chart, who's that wide receiver one that we all keep talking about. But we have seen that talent in that room improve from recent years, I would say, or at least get younger, which is exciting. You have Pop Douglas in his second season. You have Jalen Polk and Javon Baker now. There's just a little bit more upside and youth in that room to get you a little bit excited if you're a Patriots fan. Kayshon Boutte, he hangs on, at least for now. 7 receivers is a lot, but in general, I just like the overall upside of that room, I think, is improving.
I'm going to echo Evan with that take on the wide receivers. Coming into camp, that was one group where I was wondering how will the cards fall in that room with 12 guys in there. And with 7, I'm going to go with what Elliott Wolf said. He said they're excited about the young guys in that room. I know Tyquan Thornton isn't considered a young guy. His health has been an issue. He's had a productive camp. I'm hoping that translates onto the field.
Just want to keep in, they kept, 9 offensive linemen rotating there, some injury issues as well to kind of deal with. I also just want to highlight a lot of cornerbacks out. They kept, all those young guys. They drafted Marcellus Dial, their whole draft class made it. They're hanging on to a lot of guys in the secondary. I think it's a little bit because they don't really know what the answers are beyond Christian Gonzalez, Jonathan Jones, and Marcus Jones right now.
Yeah, it's a fair point, and it almost feels the same as wide receiver, where you're just keeping a bunch of stuff and let's see what sticks when we throw it against the board. They're still searching for that other outside corner that can rotate in and give them some size on the perimeter. We love Jonathan and Marcus Jones around here, but both those guys are smaller, probably best suited as nickels or slot corners. So can an Alex Austin, a Marco Wilson, a Marcellus Dial step up and fill a role where when you're going up against T. Higgins in week 1, you don't necessarily want to put a 5'9" Marcus Jones on T. Higgins. So can you have some size there on the perimeter, give you some different options like a basketball team? You don't want to have just point guards. You want to have 1 through 5 covered. The Patriots are trying to find that center in that secondary. While
we're talking about the secondary, I do want to give some love to the safeties, specifically Del Pettis being the only undrafted free agent to make this roster. All the guys, including Drake Maye and Jabril Peppers, raved about him, his ability to be aggressive out there and apply the classroom to the field.
Great call, great call. Now, let's back it up for a second, guys, because like I said, we did watch 20 practices this summer, physical camp, a lot of pads. I mean, it was hot, tough days out there. Just generally, from those practices that you watched, Tamara, what stood out to you most? What are your biggest, memories, standout moments from training camp?
My biggest memory is the leap that Drake Maye took. From the start of camp, everyone was worried about how rocky he was and how far away he seemed to be from being ready to play in an NFL game. Fast forward to now, after his 3rd preseason game, I think he's made leaps. He reads the defense well. He's able to, as AVP said, when issues arise, he has the answers for them. So I'm excited to see him continue to progress throughout the season.
Yeah, I would echo the Drake Maye statement as well, but because Tamara made a great point there, I'll go in a different direction and just point at Drake Maye, who is kind of a hard bleep out here. I don't want to swear on our channel, all right? But I was really surprised about how intense training camp was. They were in pads pretty much every single day that the league would allow them to be in pads for. You have starters playing in preseason games. You thought players coach, former player himself, this might be like country club vibes out here for training camp. It definitely did not feel like that at all to me. And I would actually say the physicality was even a little bit more intense in some of the few Belichick camps over the last couple of years too. So Drake Maye not going light on the players was a little bit of a surprise for me.
So I got a couple too, and of course I'm going to go defense. You all know me, but just the aggressiveness I saw. So certainly in the first couple preseason games, I think they backed off a little bit in the 3rd game, but DeMarcus Covington, you've wondered, how is it going to shift a little bit? Probably didn't think it was going to be a huge change. We saw, how things kind of shifted when we went from Matt Patricia to Brian Flores, then to Steve Belichick and Mayo. It seems like DeMarcus Covington's going to be really aggressive. I'm excited about that. And one last guy, I got to shout out Jalen Polk. Just my guy, rookie year. We've seen rookie guys come in here, guys, not able to stack consistent days. I just thought that Jalen Polk was out here every day. He was catching balls left and right. Seems like he's developing a chemistry with Drake Maye, and we saw that, Tamara, in the last game with Drake Maye. finding him on a cross, a really nice pass. I think he's going to be a productive member of this team this year.
Yeah, I'm really excited about Jalen Polk. When I look at him, I look at a reliable third down guy. I'm a big Jacoby Myers girly. I still miss him on this squad, but I think that Jalen Polk has the ability to be that with Drake Maye, that reliable person that you can always look to will be there open on third down.
Yeah, go back to the defense real quick, the aggressiveness. There's two types of defensive coordinators. One that is terrified and just sits back in like 7-8 man coverages and is just like, don't beat us, right? Don't do it. And there's defensive coordinators that like to dictate terms and come after you. It feels like DeMarcus Covington's going to be more the dictate terms guy, maybe in that Brian Flores mold of let's just spin the dial and let's come after quarterbacks and put pressure on the quarterback. They're going to need them to do that schematically without Judon, without Barmore for the foreseeable future. They're going to have to be creative up front, and I liked what I saw so far there.
So I'm going to piggyback right off onto that. Going into, we saw camp, we saw preseason, we know what the roster is, what are our concerns now, and I'm going to tie that right in, Evan, with pass rush. And we saw Matthew Judon is now a Falcon. We did see Christian Barmore go to IR, but designation to return, maybe a slight positive sign that they haven't entirely closed the book on Christian Barmore. But O'Shane Zimenez, Josh Uche, both those guys battling injuries at the end of camp. It's just really making matters complicated for the pass rush. It's one of my concerns going into the season.
It's a fair point, and frankly, I have a lot of concerns with the way things are going right now. We still don't know if this coaching staff, what it's going to look like in regular season games. Like, they're going to go up against Lou Anarumo in the Bengals defense in week 1. That is a hell of a defensive coordinator to face right out of the gate. Does Alex Van Pelt go toe-to-toe? Like, does he have the schematic chops to face a defense like that? You look at the big picture in that sense. The offensive line, though, is what we definitely need to talk about. And it's not just the talent level of that group. They can't even line up correctly in preseason games. That's a major, major concern. Let's at least cut out all the penalties and alignment issues and things like that. So the lowlights are just blown blocks, which is going to happen for any team, but they got to get that unit together. They have to be more cohesive. They have to line up correctly. Like, there's a lot going on with that offensive line right now.
Yeah, I would say the trenches are my biggest worry going into this season, just because it all starts with them. How are they going to be able to run the offense that AVP wants them to, no matter who the quarterback is, if the quarterbacks aren't protected? So that's my biggest worry. The running backs are getting caught in the backfield. The plays are getting blown up. There's balls on the ground. I just don't know how you don't have that being your biggest worry going into the season.
Yeah, I think the running game is a big part of it. We've heard it all offseason. This offense wants to be based on the run game. Guys, we've waited all the way, I feel like, to really hit on Drake Maye, Jacoby Brissett. Of course, that's the big question. Drake really coming on, as Tamara, as you pointed out. Now the question is, I'm assuming we're going to get Jacoby here in the first week, but how do you think it's going to go here with Drake Maye backing up Jacoby here in the early going?
I personally see Jacoby Brissett starting off week 1 in Cincinnati. He went on radio the other day and said that his shoulder was good. He came out, it was only precautionary. I think 9 years of tape, he has the experience, and with this offensive line potentially being banged up, I think he's going to be the one that's going to have the issues to get out of those, the answers to get out of those issues that arise.
Yeah, I'm like dodging a bee, like Drake Maye dodging pressure in the pocket right now, and that's what I have fear of, right, is you put a young quarterback behind this offensive line in the state of things right now, and he does already have a propensity to invite pressure with some of his pocket movement and drift into pressure at times, and that's still a work in progress for him. And I think if you combine that with a shaky offensive line, now you're kind of asking for trouble. Now, one thing we don't want to do is shell shock. Like, you don't want him to come in there and all of a sudden he's sped up and he's not going through he's creating bad habits for himself. And secondly to that, you also don't want him to get hurt, right? So these are the things that you look at with Drake Maye that you just are a little bit concerned about him going in there week 1. Let's let Jacoby Brissett go out there maybe for the first month or so of the season. Let's see if things settle down, and then around week 5, week 6, we can revisit a conversation about Drake Maye.
All right, that's going to put a cap on the preseason, the training camp. I mean, all of it. It's been a great time out here in the summer, but I think we're all ready for the regular season to start. Tamara, Evan, and I will be back every week with a preview for you guys of each game, so be on the lookout for that. And just like that, we're off on the 2024 season.